Thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have an opportunity to talk about what's going on up on Beacon Hill with the Speaker of the Massachusetts House, State Representative Ron Mariano of Quincy. Mr. Speaker, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
How are things in Quincy? How's the economy locally? How is it statewide? Well, are you worried?
I am worried. Obviously, I'd be silly if I wasn't worried with what's going on in Washington.
Yeah.
And the fact that every day something is changing, something's being eliminated, and then by the end of the day, it's back in play. So it's hard to have any idea of how this thing is going to play out. I just know that we rely on a federal partner for about $15 billion coming into the state over the course of the year in a myriad of programs. So if that's cut significantly, then we are in a difficult position.
What's your level of confidence that our congressional delegation can protect us?
Well, you know, they're in the outliers in the Democratic Party, so I don't think there's a lot they can do unless the Republicans begin to realize the silliness of some of the things that they're trying to cut, and we can get a coalition of Democrats and Republicans to stand up. So.
Well, closer to home, the House has had a busy week this past week. You voted, the House voted against a Republican measure to force the House to allow the auditor, the state auditor, to come in. That was the focus of that ballot question last fall. I want to read back to you a tweet that the auditor put out the other day. Speaker Ron Mariano and henchman Mike Moran, the majority leader, looked out on their, not your, reps with pride today as they decided to defy the will of the voters they represent to ensure these two guys, you and Moran, can continue to hide whatever it is they do with your taxpayer dollars. What do you make of that?
Well, that's very inflammatory, and it's kind of a nonsensical response to the activities that happened in the legislative debate. We have an honest disagreement, an honest difference of opinion. We think there are constitutional issues involved in the separation of powers and what she wants to do and what that ballot question allows her to do. And that's the way she deals with disagreements, I guess, is gets on tweet or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't tweet, but so that's the first time I've heard that comment.
Well, just below it, you know, if you go on Twitter and people respond to a tweet, the first response was from someone, I don't know who it was, but they wrote, elected reps are, quote, henchmen. The legislature is, quote, authoritarian. Gosh, how could anyone question your ability to conduct an impartial audit? That's obviously directed at the auditor. What do you make of that?
It's probably one of her friends.
Do you agree with that?
No, the issue that we have is that we don't want a political audit. We want a financial audit. And she's turned this into a political audit for some issues that she's been railing against since she first got into the House. So we know it's political. It's unfortunate that people don't read into this and listen to the things that she says.
I know, and Mr. Speaker, both the House and the Senate have changed their rules. And correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it looks to me like in direct response to voter sentiment expressed in the response to question 1 and in other ways, that there was unhappiness with the way the legislature was doing its business. Is that right?
There may have been, and there were some stories written about how we didn't stick by the deadlines, but these are deadlines that we created that are artificial. What really spurred the discussion of change was our own frustration at coming into the final day of the session, July 31st, and having 7 or 8 major conference committees piled up at the end of the session and us trying to get through them. in the 24-hour or less period of time. And we were frustrated. What has happened here is that bills get stacked up and then they get combined at the end of the session in the rush to get them through. Well, the rush to get them through doesn't work when you have these major pieces of legislation with a lot of different issues, and you're trying to negotiate back and forth in a fair settlement to both the Senate and the House. It's very, very difficult.
So how have you fixed that?
Well, what we've done is we've set a rolling deadline for the committees. They get 60 days to hear a bill and move it. We want it out in the membership. We want the chairman to take a more active part in determining what's going to be in the agenda. And we're hoping that this will do that, and it'll force us to deal with these issues before they stack up and we have to combine them. We hope it will make us more efficient. We've opened up the process. We're going to include our votes. We're going to include our attendance. We want people to know who's at the hearing, how they're voting. We want to open that up. And we want to process these bills before we feel the crunch of the time coming at the end of the
Okay, so you are trying to respond to public sentiment in part, right?
It is a response. I mean, obviously, the ballot question was a significant number, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you announced your committee assignments last week, you said the promotion of Representative Jeff Roy from chair of Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy to a leadership post would, quote, make some of the negative things he's been attributed with go away, end quote, a reference to the disclosure of a relationship with a top lobbyist doing business before his committee. Everyone disclosed, nothing illegal there, but the representative himself acknowledged he considered resigning at one point to avoid the appearance of conflict. In hindsight, should he have at least recused himself from input on matters she was lobbying for, or is this much ado about nothing?
Well, it's not much ado about nothing. It's an issue, okay. And it's a perception issue. I grant that, and I think Jeff knows that. But he did everything that he's required to do under the law.
Right.
As I sat here pondering what my team is going to look like, and having lost an awful lot of my leadership team through retirement this year, I'm looking for help. And Jeff Roy is a very competent individual. He took on TUE with no background on it, learned it, got himself up to speed, and gave us two major pieces of legislation that put us in the lead for all the offshore wind business that we could get on the East Coast. Unfortunately, the president just blew the whole thing up. But that being said, we were on the way to being green, at least in a couple of major cities in the South Coast, New Bedford and Fall River. So he has a significant talent that we need. Now I get to use him across many subject matters. I'm not going to tie him down to just electricity and power, although we may have to put a lot more people on it when the electric bills keep coming out the way they're coming out. So we're aware of that. But you have to understand that Jeff is a very talented individual, very smart. He's a hard worker. He is. The two bills he did were flawless, and we need him.
Well, look, there's so much more we could get into. Our time is too short, but we look forward to having you come back a little later on in this year.
Down the road.
And what do you think? You and the auditor, center ice at the Garden. You can drop the gloves and settle this right there.
And my helmet on. So.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Good to see you.
Likewise.